So I went to this auction and it was daunting. There was the big press and a bunch of them, there were like 3 of them, and nobody bid on them. Like the auctioneer got up on the bell and nobody bid on them. And I was the only woman there. And I was so excited, and I wasn't gonna buy it because it weighs like 1,800 pounds. I didn't know what I'd do with it. And so when it came up for auction, he started at $1,000. And I said, well, I can't afford it. And then he said, okay, I'm opening the bid. And I raised my hand and said, I'll give you $50. And he said, lady, I could get more for scrap. So let's start it at 100. And nobody bid against me. So I got that press for $100. I went to the Academy of Art in San Francisco. I ended up moving here to Burlington when I was about 35, and I hadn't done art. I was a business analyst, and because I had to pay rent. And then I moved here and I still did that. And then on the weekends I took classes. I started taking classes in letterpress printing at the Shelburne Museum, and I fell in love with it. I had been familiarized with it in San Francisco. I knew some people who did it, and I was always fascinated. And I took a class, and that was it. I was kind of hooked. And my first press was a little teeny tabletop press. And so I started, basically doing like wedding invitations and that kind of thing on the weekends. And then as my business grew and I started concentrating more on graphic design, it got to a point where I could quit my day job and do this full time. I do a lot of logo design and rebranding. And I think why people are attracted to my work is it's very simple and clean, but I also think the letterpress printing pretty much clinches it too, because I think when you're starting a business, you really want to stand out, and anybody can print cards at Vistaprint or an offset printer. It's very expensive to letterpress print. It's all done by hand. But what's so beautiful about it is the texture, the thickness of the paper, the texture of the paper. It's usually all cotton, where it shows up really well. And there's just such a satisfaction taking something from your idea and your client's, idea, and then bringing it all the way through, not having to let go of the process at all. That's my favorite thing, is being able to design it, print it, and hand it over. So I'm a control freak. In a good way though, I guess. So what I do is I'll design it on my computer, and then, in the olden days they used type and copper and magnesium, all these different metals to make the plates for the press. And today most modern day letterpress printers use polymer, and it's a really hard plastic. And they get adhered to what's called a base in the press. It's called a type high base. And then you mix your ink and you put it on the press, and then you feed each card in one by one. Let's say I'm doing a business card that has 3 colors, which I've done. So that business card has to go through the press 3 times. You have to do one color, then you have to clean the entire press, then you have to set up the second color, clean the press again, run it and then clean the press again, and then do the 3rd color. So it does take a lot more time. I hand mix all my inks to match, and sometimes you'll mix it and then you'll put it on the press and it'll be the wrong color. You have to clean it off and mix it again. But it is a lot more expensive than, doing digital or laser or offset. And I think it's just because of the handmade process. You charge per press setup, and then you charge for each image every time it goes through the press. The paper is very expensive. The paper I use, it starts at around $3 a sheet. But offset paper can be a lot less than that. It's thinner. And with offset, if it's the same hue, they can run it at the same time. So it doesn't, in my press, it would have to go twice. I always toyed with the idea of making it bigger, but I think I like being small. I think there's just more control. I don't feel responsible for someone else if, times are slow, or, that's a hard thing to get used to when you have your own business. You always want your own business. You always think, oh, it's going to be so great. But then, you know, when business is slow, it can be very stressful. It's like, oh my God, is anybody ever going to call me again? My clients are so funny. They'll tell me, oh, I met someone, I was going to give them a card, but I didn't think they were card worthy. Like I didn't want to let go of my card. I love the process. The ink mixing, the putting it on the press, getting it going. I love the smell of the ink. I love the sound of the ink. There's a sound that it makes when it's on the ink plate. I don't know, there's just something so old world about it. If I have a big run to do, I'll put on like, you know, Led Zeppelin or something and get into it. So it's nice because I'm not disturbing anybody here. It's just me and the bears.